Hey guys, this is my first long-term video, so sorry if it sounds a bit weird or my microphone sounds a bit weird. I'm literally recording off my phone microphone, so don't criticize me on that. Also, I realize that there are too many false beliefs of the Catholic Church to fit into one video, so I'm making it into different parts. This is part one, where I'm going to put some of my strongest arguments against the Catholic Church. So we'll start off with, first off, false doctrine. And the reason why false doctrine makes the Catholic Church wrong, and the whole Catholic Church wrong, even if it's just one false doctrine, is because the Catholic Church believes in church infallibility. The Roman Catholic Church has a belief that the Church has equal authority to the Bible and therefore is infallible. Because the Bible is infallible, and because the Church is, and because the Church is infallible, the Catholic Church believes that all of its doctrines are infallible. Also, because they were made by the Church, which is infallible, therefore can't fail. So if a doctrine is proven wrong, a belief of the Catholic Church is wrong, which means the Catholic Church isn't infallible, which means one of the main beliefs of the Catholic Church is wrong, which means the Catholic Church in a whole as wrong. So you can't just have one wrong thing about the Catholic Church and just have everything right. No, it doesn't work that way. If one thing is wrong about the Catholic Church, the whole thing is wrong. But for the first false doctrine, Vatican II, paragraph 841. The Church's relationship with Muslims, the plan of salvation, also includes those who acknowledge the Creator in the first place among us whom are Muslims. These to hold the faith of Abraham, and together with us they adore the one merciful God, mankind's judge on the last day. For the first verse against this, 1 John 5:12, he who has the Son has the life. He who does not have the Son does not have the life. Do not have the Son does not have the life? They don't believe that, Muslims don't believe that Jesus is God, and therefore they don't have the Son, therefore they don't have the life, which is eternal life, therefore they don't have salvation, which makes this doctrine wrong. Also, the reason why this doctrine is wrong, aside from it just being obvious that Muslims aren't saved, the reason why this doctrine is incorrect is that Muslims only believe Jesus as a prophet and not as God, therefore they don't believe into the Son. And as the verse I just showed you said, he who has the Son has the life, he who does not have the Son does not have the life. And since Muslims do not believe into the Son, they don't have the life or eternal life. Second false doctrine, Council of Trent on Justification, Canon 9. If anyone says that the sinner is justified by faith alone, meaning nothing else is required to cooperate in order to obtain the grace of justification, and that it is not in any way necessary that he be prepared and disposed by the action of his own will, let him be anathema, which means condemned to hell or a grand curse by the Catholic Church. Basically means you aren't a believer. So first verse on that, for it is by Ephesians 2, 8-9, for it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not from yourselves. It is a gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast. Second verse, Galatians 3:11, that by law no one is justified before God is evident. The righteous one shall have life and live by faith, which means live by faith, gain salvation from their faith. Also, Romans 3:23-24, For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, being justified freely by his grace through the redemption which is in Jesus Christ. Now, the reason why this doctrine is wrong, I just showed you a bunch of verses saying we're justified by faith alone, and therefore that doctrine is false. But the reason why this doctrine is wrong, it is clear in many verses in the Bible that a person is justified by faith alone. But many Catholics will use James 2 and Romans 2 to say that salvation is through faith and works. But in James 2, what the Bible means by saying faith without works is dead is that faith produces works, and without works there is no sign of your faith, therefore your faith is dead. Not that you gain salvation through your works. And whatever the Catholic Church says in Romans, clarified by Romans 2, they quote a verse saying God will judge man by his works, but that is clarified in Romans 3 where it says, "For we account that a man is justified by faith apart from the works of law." Romans 3:28. And note, this is only two of the many false doctrines of the Catholic Church. Maybe there aren't any. Maybe the Catholic Church can prove me wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other doctrines that are false. And if I try to fit them all in here, this video would be probably an hour long, so we'll move on to the next point. The worship of Mary. Exodus 24-5, "You shall not make yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God." And there's a few words after that, but I'd rather not include that. Why Catholics worship Mary? Obviously, worship Mary is false because that is idolatry and because of the last verse I showed you. Now, most Catholics will say that they don't worship Mary, but they do. And here's why. The Catholic Church makes statues or idols of Mary, and as I showed you in Exodus 20, you're not supposed to make an image, or what Exodus means, a false image. Another reason why Catholics worship Mary is because Catholics pray and bow down to those idols that Catholics make of Mary. Now, bowing down in itself is not idolatry, but with bowing and praying to an idol, that makes it worship and idolatry. Some Catholics will say they make requests to Mary for her to deliver those prayers to God, which doesn't make sense because Mary isn't omnipresent and doesn't know whether you're praying or not. She can't just barge in like God would, and can't hear those requests. And the definition of pray is to make a request to an entity, which makes it so they pray to Mary anyway. Now, they will claim that they don't pray to an entity and therefore it's not praying, but they make requests to Mary while they're bowing to an idol. So it's kind of obvious. And even if this isn't really convincing, look at these two images. Catholics bowing to a statue of Mary and people bowing to Baal. It looks very similar, doesn't it? It's because it's almost exactly the same thing. For my third point, church authority / infallibility. A high emphasis on tradition. That's my first point. Now, I obviously showed you that church isn't infallible because of its false doctrines, but I'll show you another one. Colossians 2:8, "Beware that no one carries you off as spoil through his philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the elements of the world, and not according to Christ." This is one viewpoint that Baptists make to justify their no tradition, and also 2 Thessalonians 2:15, "So then, brothers, stand firm and hold to the things which were handed down to you, in which you were taught, whether by word or by a letter, which Catholics usually use to justify their high sense of tradition. And this is the reason why a high emphasis on tradition is false. The Roman Catholic Church believes that church tradition is infallible because it was founded by the church, and but as it says in Colossians 2:8, beware that no one carries you off as spoil through this philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of man, according to the elements of the world, and not according to Christ. Paul warns about tradition in this verse and its risk of deceiving and manipulating us to the way of the world. In the 2 Thessalonians 2:15, it says to stand firm and hold to the things which were taught, which is tradition. So what does this mean? Well, it means that Christians shouldn't put away tradition as Baptists do, but we shouldn't treat tradition like it's some unfailing thing and something that shouldn't be changed if it's wrong. But put away tradition when it contradicts the Bible or it's harmful or false. So we as Christians should have a moderate view of tradition, not high. A second point, the papacy. For there is 1 Timothy 2:5, for there is one God and one mediator between God and man, the man Jesus Christ. Now, reason why the papacy is wrong, the Pope is often referred as a mediator, which I showed you in 1 Timothy, that there is only one mediator between God and man, and that is Jesus Christ. Also, a verse that the Catholic Church uses to justify giving the Pope such a high position, like what is Matthew 16:18, and I tell you that you are Peter, which means Petros, which means rock, and on this rock, which is Petra, which is different, which means like a cliff, I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. Many Catholics misinterpret this verse by saying that Jesus was referring to Peter as the rock or the foundation of the church. And since Peter gave it to some other guy, like the leadership of the church as the Catholics claim, that gives justification of keep making an apostolic line of popes. But as you see, the verse refers to Peter as Petros, which means stone. And Jesus refers the rock as Petra, which means large stone or cliff. So the verse basically refers to Peter as part of the foundation, not the foundation itself, not the whole foundation, which means the papacy as a whole is false. Note, beliefs vary in Catholics, like moral sin, which I'll discuss in my second video. Some Catholics believe that if you do a sin, you lose your salvation. But some other Catholics believe that if you do a sin, you won't lose your salvation. And many other things. But the doctrines, it varies. Like for justification, some Catholics believe in faith alone. Some Catholics believe in faith and works because of that canon. Also, pretty consistently, Catholics claim not to worship Mary, but they do, as I just showed you. So, beliefs vary in Catholics, the things which I said most Catholics believe in, but not all, except in the doctrines. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope this was helpful to you. Hope this make you have a better idea of how the Catholic Church is. Thank you for listening, and God bless.